The death grip of grief. Lauren's brush with the other side. The morning of January 2016 began like any other for Lauren, a 45-year-old woman living in West Virginia. She walked into her office building, a steaming cup of coffee in one hand, her purse slung over her shoulder. It was Friday, a day that felt lighter than most. The weekend loomed ahead, full of promise. Lauren had plans, good ones. Saturday was hiking day with her husband, Dan, something they loved to do together. Sunday was family dinner night, a cherished tradition where their 3 grown children would return home to sit at their old dinner table, eating and laughing like they had when they were younger. The thought made her smile as she placed her things on her desk. She felt good, healthier than she had in a while. Her doctor had recently diagnosed her with peripheral vascular disease, a condition that limited blood flow to her legs and feet, but she was taking steps to control it. More walking, a better diet, less smoking. Well, she hadn't quite kicked the cigarettes yet, but she was trying. As she settled into her chair and began checking emails, her phone rang. A number she didn't recognize. She hesitated, then let it go to voicemail. Probably just a telemarketer. A minute later, it rang again. Same number. A chill ran down her spine. Something about it felt wrong. She answered. Hello? The voice on the other end was calm but firm. A police officer. Ma'am, are you Dan's wife? Lauren's stomach dropped. The office around her blurred as her breath came in short, sharp bursts. Yes, she whispered. There's been an accident. We need you to come to the scene immediately. The words felt sharp, unreal. A mistake. A nightmare. She grabbed her coat, her keys, barely aware of what she was doing, and ran. Her heart pounded in her chest, a frantic drumbeat of fear. She sped down the road, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. Every second stretched into eternity. When she arrived, she saw the flashing red and blue lights first. A chaotic swarm of police officers, paramedics, onlookers. And then, through the gaps in the crowd, she saw the car. Dan's car. It was crushed, mangled beyond recognition. A heap of twisted metal and shattered glass. She barely noticed the wreckage because her eyes were drawn to something else. The circle of first responders kneeling on the pavement. Her feet moved before her mind caught up. She pushed through the bodies, shoving past officers and paramedics who didn't try to stop her. And then she saw him. Dan. He was lying in a pool of blood. His body twisted unnaturally, his skin a deathly shade of gray. The smell of oil and burnt rubber clung to the air. Lauren let out a sound, a primal, soul-wrenching wail. She collapsed beside him, grasping his lifeless body. Her fingers curled around his shirt, still warm, as if clinging to some last, impossible hope that this wasn't real. That maybe if she held him tight enough, he would wake up. But he didn't. The paramedics stepped back, their faces etched with the quiet sympathy of those who had seen too much death. Dan was gone. The next few hours blurred into grief and disbelief. Lauren returned home, but it wasn't really home anymore. It was just a house. A hollow, empty space. Her 3 children were there, waiting, their faces pale and stricken. The moment she stepped inside, they rushed to her, wrapping their arms around her. And together, they broke. She tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat, a rising pressure that wouldn't let her breathe. It was too much, too sudden, too cruel. And then something strange happened. A heavy tightness wrapped around her chest, like an invisible fist squeezing the life out of her. Her vision blurred. Her heart pounded erratically. Her body shook. I think I'm having a panic attack, she gasped. One of her daughters ran for water, but by the time she returned, Lauren was gasping, clawing at her throat. She couldn't breathe. Her mouth opened in a desperate attempt to suck in air, but nothing came. Her vision darkened. The edges of the world frayed. She mouthed to her children, I can't breathe. Panic surged through them. Someone screamed for an ambulance. The world tilted as Lauren collapsed onto the couch, her body weakening, shutting down. The last thing she remembered was the sound of sirens pulling her into the darkness. When Lauren awoke, she was in a hospital bed. Machines beeped around her. Her heart felt wrong, like it wasn't hers. A doctor stood over her, a man named Dr. Conrad Falinger, his face grim. You had a heart attack, he said. Lauren stared at him, dazed. That made sense, didn't it? She had peripheral vascular disease after all. Maybe that was why. But then Dr. Falinger shook his head. No, he corrected himself. Not a heart attack. He explained that her heart had begun to fail, but there were no blockages, no clogged arteries. It wasn't disease. It was grief. Her heart was literally breaking. The official term was stress cardiomyopathy, but most people knew it by its haunting name, broken heart syndrome. The sheer trauma of losing Dan had sent her body into shock. A flood of stress hormones had overwhelmed her heart, stunning it, paralyzing it. Dr. Falinger had read about cases like hers before, but never this severe. Lauren had been hours away from death, and there was no real cure. All they could do was wait. Keep her heart beating long enough for the hormones to subside. But that wasn't enough. Dr. Falinger turned to her children, who sat silently by her bedside. He spoke softly but urgently. "She needs to hear your voices," he said. "She needs to feel loved, safe. That's the only thing that will bring her back." So they did. For hours, they sat around her, whispering to her. They held her hands, stroked her hair, begged her to stay. And something inside her listened. A week later, Lauren's heart healed. She would later say she remembered drifting towards something dark, something empty. She had felt herself slipping away. But then, the voices, her children calling her back. The reason she survived wasn't medicine. It was love. And that somehow was stronger than death itself. The forgotten bomb beneath the campfire. In September of 2021, Lydia Makarchuk and her husband, Norbert Varga, embarked on what was supposed to be a long overdue celebration. A honeymoon trip to Ukraine, Lydia's homeland. The couple had been married for 2 years, yet due to various complications, they had postponed this visit multiple times. Now, at last, they would reunite with Lydia's family, who had missed their wedding. It was meant to be a joyous occasion, a time for connection and togetherness. But hidden beneath the soil of an ancient battlefield, something waited. Something silent. Something lethal. The journey to the mountains. Lydia had been particularly excited for this trip because it would give her husband a chance to finally bond with her younger brother, Miroslav. She was close to Miroslav. His approval of Norbert mattered to her. And so, to ensure they had a proper chance to connect, Miroslav arranged a special outing. A camping trip in the Carpathian Mountains, where the crisp air and starlit sky would offer an intimate setting to talk and get to know each other. Their destination was a well-known campsite, a clearing nestled high up in the mountains with breathtaking views and an endless sky of twinkling stars. A place of beauty, a place of peace, or so they thought. On September 15th, the last night of their stay in Ukraine, Lydia, Norbert, Miroslav, and 9 other family members packed up their tents and supplies, then set off. They drove to the base of the Carpathian Range and began their ascent. The hike took 2 hours, their breath fogging in the evening chill as they climbed. At last, they reached their destination, a picturesque site with a stunning overlook of the dense forest below. The night was perfect. They pitched their tents, gathered firewood, and soon a fire crackled warmly, its golden light flickering against the darkness of the wild. They laughed. They swapped stories. Tea was passed around as old friends and family members basked in the warmth of reunion. The sky stretched above them, infinite and silent as the fire burned, and deep beneath them something stirred, the explosion. As the evening wore on, Norbert finally had a long, uninterrupted conversation with Miroslav. Lydia watched them, heart swelling with happiness. This was exactly what she had hoped for. A perfect ending to their long-awaited honeymoon. Then, around 9 p.m., Norbert stood up. He patted his pockets and announced that he had left his camera in their tent. Lydia nodded absently, watching him disappear into the dark. And then, a strange sound. A whistling. Faint at first, but rising, shrieking, slicing through the air. Before Lydia could react, something struck her face. Hard, a crushing impact against her nose. A blinding pain exploded through her skull. Instantly, her world went black. She couldn't see. She couldn't hear. The ground tilted, and suddenly she was down, sprawled in the dirt. The pain in her face was excruciating. Her body felt heavy, disconnected. The only thing she could process was the absolute certainty that something terrible had happened. Something she might not survive. Somewhere in the blackness, voices screamed. Agonized, panicked wails. The air was thick with the acrid stench of burning earth, of smoke, of blood, then a voice. Her name, a desperate, frantic cry. Norbert's voice growing closer. Suddenly, she felt hands on her. He was gripping her, calling her name over and over. She tried to speak, to ask what had happened. Her voice barely worked. When she managed to force out the words, there was a long, terrible silence. Then Norbert answered, his voice hollow with horror. It's bad. It's really bad. The forgotten killer. What they would later learn was that their idyllic campsite had been sitting atop a remnant of an old war. A buried, unexploded bomb from World War I, forgotten beneath the soil for over a century. That night, their fire had unknowingly acted as a slow-burning fuse. Year after year, countless other campers had come and gone, their fires weakening the rusted shell of the buried explosive. That night, with Lydia and her